What was your well somebody had to do it moment? In elementary school, my class went on a trip to a campground nature reserve thing. They took us on a tour and stopped around various plants to inform us about them. When talking about one of the plants, they told us that they didn't know whether or not they were poisonous. I ate some. It had no discernible effect on me. I got sent home. I did it for science. That's how discoveries are made. Chose to make the phone call to my roommate's dad to tell him he died, rather than having the police tell him. I still feel horrible about it, because I told him Greg had a medical emergency. His dad had to ask me, did he die, because I couldn't bring myself to say so. Had a similar thing. My friend's dad had died of a heart attack and no one had been able to get a hold of him to break the news. After several hours, my phone was the only one to get through. I was too much of a coward to tell him what happened and just said, you need to drop everything and go home. Right now. You just need to go home. New Year's Eve when I was around 14 years old at a friend's house with no parental supervision. The older brother pulled out a quarter stick of dynamite to light off at midnight. It was a cold Michigan winter and so the smart thing to do was to open the door wall, light the stick, and throw it from inside the house. Well, he dropped it, lit, on the floor. After we stared at each other for what seemed like an eternity, my soccer skills rushed in and I kicked it out the door. It went about 10 feet and then exploded. Could have lost a leg but, well, somebody had to do it. Reminds me of the Malcolm in the Middle episode where he puts the grenade in the fridge. At a kid's party, I was the only adult not drinking and having a good time, because there was a freaking pool with no fence around it. I stood there watching it like a hawk while trying to act like I wasn't judging everyone. Everyone was surprised when I fished a 4-year-old out of the water. They all just stood there while I hopped in to get her. My sister has a pool, and every time they have a party where there will be kids, they hire a lifeguard to watch the pool so that no one has to feel like they are carrying that burden. In the 5 or so parties I've been to with that lifeguard there, she has never had to even touch the water, but the kids' parents are always super appreciative that she is there. This didn't happen to me, but to my grandma. She currently works as a bartender for the American Legion, and one day some random guy walks in and runs straight into the bathroom without saying a word to anyone. After about 20 minutes, he walks out, goes to his car, and leaves. Some other guy goes to the bathroom after him and runs out swearing like a sailor. It turns out the mystery man that had just left had released the inner contents of his bowels all over the bathroom, on the walls, the floor, the door, everywhere. He even left his crap-soaked underwear sitting in the trash can next to the door. So what does my grandma do? She goes in there and cleans it all up by herself because nobody else wanted to do it. A couple weeks later the same guy comes back. My grandma recognizes him and permabans him from the bar. TLDR. My grandma mean crap cleaning machine. Good for her for chasing that butthole out. I work at a motel, and the local police don't bother with our calls due to the fact that their priority is the airport and high-end hotels. One night, I was making my walk around, picking up trash and making sure everything was sound and safe when I looked over to a window that had the blinds half open. I saw a man holding a woman on the bed with his hand on her neck, choking her, and his other fist in the air. She was fighting him off and I knew she was in trouble. I dialed 911 and reported it, only to be told we'll send someone as soon as we can. Which in this area means we don't care. So, I threw my phone in my pocket, with the operator on the line, and broke into the room and tackled the guy assaulting the woman down. I secured his hands behind his back, nearly dislocating his shoulder. What I didn't see was the other 4 guys in the room. They proceeded to pull me off and beat me half to death. The woman tried to pull them off of me, but to no avail. After 3 broken ribs, severe bruising to my lungs, sides and face and a sprained wrist, I hobbled back to my office after everyone, including the woman, had ran off, leaving me bloody and injured on the floor of the room. Cops showed up 5 minutes after I had started bandaging myself up. They asked why did you go in there, and I swear to God the only thing I said was, well, he could have killed her, and if you guys wouldn't show up, someone else had to do it. Of course HR said that. I strongly suggest you call an employment lawyer and get your bills covered. You were protecting someone on their property and were assaulted on their property. It will never go to court. Their insurance will settle for medical plus some suffering. I accidentally signed up for a workshop on how to work with people who had cognitive impairments. Not many people sign up for these workshops, and the instructors said they had an immediate need for another teacher at a school for young adults with severe cognitive impairments. I was the only one in the room with a teaching certificate, and I was only waiting tables at the time, so I volunteered. I ended up working at that school for a year before they found a permanent teacher. I learned so much about humanity in that classroom. You are good people. Leaving first from friends' houses. That moment when everyone is huddled at the front door. Pointless conversation. Hand on the doorknob. I'll be 10 feet down the drive clicking my doors open. I dunno, sometimes I'm that dude that writes correct answers on the book or the dude that erases the wrong answers on the book. Thank you. Unless you're also the guy that circles Waldo, in which case frick you. Reported my boss for harassment, bullying and blackmail, and being generally incompetent. Nobody else wanted to, so I thought frick it, my turn be, and proceeded to make her life a misery. Older woman, I would guess in her 70s, came into the movie theater I work at, and in the middle of the movie she went into the restroom, crapped her pants, took them off, walked out into the lobby wearing no pants, with crap streaming down her legs leaving a trail. Guess which minimum wage worker had to clean it up? Oh man. I'm sorry, man. Someone I wasn't particularly friends with got way too drunk at my ex's house party and passed out in the bathtub. He crap in the bathtub. I pushed the crap down the drain with a spoon. Lost a part of myself that night and he still doesn't know he did it. All joking aside, you are a good person. I wrote a suicide note for my sister. Her suicidal thoughts weren't being taken seriously by medical professionals and she needed proper care. That sucked. I was walking with a friend and came across a snake with its head smashed in, but it was still alive, slithering in sad little circles. I begged my friend to put it out of its misery. I love snakes, and had never killed anything before that point, but he was too queasy about it. I had to stomp the thing to death, and I cried the whole time. I had to do that with a bird my dog fricked up but didn't kill. I had to stand on its head. I was 12. Not fun when you're just a kid. Told friend of mine that he was being cheated on by his girlfriend. A lot of people knew, and I hesitated to do it because she was friends with my girlfriend at the time. But I remember a guy I knew that did the same thing for me when an ex was cheating on me while she was at college, and I thought it was the right thing to do because I definitely appreciated it. It made things a bit awkward for a bit, but I don't regret it at all. I was on a road trip with two friends and we stopped in Pittsburgh for the night at Holiday Inn or some sort of similar chain. We've been driving all day from the greater Chicago area, only stopping at shady, filthy rest stops at P, and eating junk food in the car for meals. So we check into this place, which was nice for the price we paid, and we're chilling out watching TV when at about 11 PM all those spicy cheaters catch up with me. So I head to the bathroom to do my thing. At this point I should note that all three of us are splitting this hotel room. One in one bed, one in another, and one on the fold-out couch. There is only one bathroom. So I go in and I know it's gonna be bad. I turn the exhaust fan on. I crack the itty bitty window, and I let it loose. I'm telling you, this was a crap for the ages. It wouldn't stop. I swear there was a 1.5 foot log coiled in that bowl with about 4 bags of Cheetos, 4 Butterfingers, and a 6-pack of Mountain Dew sitting on top of that. The pile is out of the water. After I'm finished sacrificing my sphincter to the porcelain god, I'm standing there looking at this mountain of crap and I know it's not going anywhere. But what can I do? So I flush. And what happens? Exactly what you'd expect. As I'm watching the water level go up and up, I rip the back of the toilet and grab the float and stop all water flow. Well, crap. What do I do? No plunger, no one at the front desk, and there's no way 3 20-year-old guys can't have a toilet for 12 hours. So I grab the thin plastic garbage bag out of the can, put it on like a glove, and shove that turd down. So I'm up to my elbow in my own filth yelling at my friends to find a plunger and they're laughing hysterically at me and my improvised pool plunger, so no help there. Finally, I get the toilet to flush and I take the bag off my arm and turn it inside out, tie it in a knot and throw it back in the can. In the morning, I left a big tip on the dresser, and we took off. Bonus: I forgot my wallet, so I had to go back to the scene of the crime and face the staff in all my shame. TLDR, used my arm as a plunger. Probably too late to the party, but my friend and I were at a dollar store buying drinks. An old man with what looked like Parkinson's was ahead of us and a few people being served at the register. The clerk tallied up the items and the man put them back in his bag he brought before getting his money out. The poor bloke didn't have enough money. It broke my heart to see him try and figure out what to give back and not buy. He ended up taking a lot out of his bag and was mumbling. I ended up jumping the line and paying for the items. Afterwards he shook my hand and said thanks, and it seemed like it was a struggle for him just to do that. Until I paid for his items he was there for a few minutes. Everyone else ignored him. After I paid for the items my friend said it was a nice thing to do. I asked if they would have done the same and they said no. It changed my outlook that day. Whenever I see someone who needs help I always try and do what I can. I was a lifeguard at a summer day camp. One of the campers had autism spectrum disorder, but it was mild enough that the camp allowed him to come. One day he lashed out violently towards one of the counselors. I was on my stand by the pool when my boss comes running over. I don't remember what she said. I just remember turning to see the boy running for the hills and a counselor lying against a steel door. He had thrown her against it. I jump off my stand and just ran after the kid. Cause I didn't know where he would go. There was a couple acres of woods he could have run off to. I catch up and stop him. I got him to sit down and we just talked. Some of the other counselors and staff started coming over, but I waved them off because he said he would only talk to me. I don't know why he responded to me and not anyone else. I just made him comfortable. Eventually his mom picked him up and he never came back. I don't remember a lot about him, other than that I felt bad for him. The kid was alone. At least for an hour I think he felt like he had one friend. We had this strange rule growing up where we weren't allowed to take shoots in my parents' bathroom, so I tried to time my shoots for when they weren't home. Nobody tells me where I can and can't crap. Nobody. I just imagine you squatting on the table at dinner, intensely looking everyone in the eye, and pushing one out as you whisper nobody. I was at a party where a girl was out on the balcony smoking a cigarette by herself. Out of the corner of my eye I saw a tall little flame go up, and I thought, wow, that's an intense lighter flame. It took me half a second to realize her hair was on fire, so I ran out there and smacked that girl's head to put out the fire. It turns out that she was very intoxicated, and she singed her eyebrow hairs and some of her bangs. The funny thing is that after I smacked her head and asked if she was okay, she just went, I'm fine, and kept smoking her cigarette. My dad had announced that he was unhappy with his and my mom's marriage and that he was leaving. A month and a half passed and he still hadn't left, so I took things into my own hands. My mom was still in love and emotionally broken, and even though we all knew my dad was seeing someone, mom didn't have the heart to tell him to leave already, so I did. I was 14 when I packed my dad's bags and told him to leave. After that my mom became bulimic and started smoking like I had never seen her do before. Sure, I had to step up and carry the weight my dad left behind, but still I don't regret doing what I did. On my school bus this kid got a really bad blood nose. All his friends started laughing at him and this girl handed him paper as a joke to mop it all up. So after about 5 minutes of deliberation of whether I should help him cause I was incredibly shy, I finally decided to give him a packet of tissues I had. I was bloody shaking as I did it and was so nervous. Cause I'm just like that. It was a pretty proud moment for myself. Not that special. Good job. Tell a kid who kept following me and my friends around that we weren't friends, that he was not part of the group, and that he was no longer welcome to our lunch table. At first we tried to include him, but he kept trying to pick on one of the kids in group, to assert dominance and carve a spot for himself in the group's hierarchy. We found his blog. At first we just ignored him and stopped inviting him when we hung out, but when he showed up to our Christmas party uninvited, it was the last straw. A drunk guy came over to my house the other day. He stepped on one of our 5-week-old kittens. He crushed its lungs, but it was still breathing. I unfortunately had to be the one to put it down. I haven't cried like that in a while. That's so sad. Stop a guy from punching his girlfriend in a drunk rage at a central station in Copenhagen. Once I stepped in, a lot of other people followed my lead, but only after I intervened. Fighting 3 guys at once to defend a very small pacifist. I got my butt handed to me, but I kicked the crap out of one dude's testicles. Because frick rules, that's why, and frick bullies, would do again. Fishing out a giant turd from the bathwater after my 1.5-year-old son cranked one out at the end of his bath tonight. Yes, there was corn. At least he did it in the bath rather than on the carpet. Poo smeared carpet is my least favorite kind of carpet. Last week, starting from Sunday the 31st of March, my female friend started having crazy abdominal pain. We live on the campus dorms. By Wednesday night she was crying in my arms from the pain. Never seen her like that too. I looked it up. Figured that it was probably an ovarian cyst or an appendicitis. She didn't want to do anything about it. The following night was worst. She still didn't want to go to the ER. Didn't wanna skip work, classes. Didn't realize she could get a serious infection and die. The other guys we hung out with didn't get it either. I woke them up and told them to give us a lift to the nearest hospital. We pretty much had to drag her kicking and screaming. By the time we were there, it got worse. I stayed alone with her, held her while she was telling she wanted to die. I skipped Tridge and brought her to the ER telling the doctors to help her right the frick now. They're hooked up on morphine. It barely helped. I spent the night with her. I comforted her. I had seen her suffer a lot before. She's been raped, beat on, depressed, traumatized. She doesn't deserve this on top of it all. I don't ever want to feel that helpless again. I was almost unbearable saying her like that, but there was no way I was leaving her alone. Diagnosis: she had a 9.5 centimeters ovarian cyst. I didn't even know that was possible. She was operated last Friday. She's now home to her parents until the end of the week. She's doing better. She's very lucky you forced her to go to the hospital. If it had ruptured, it could very well have killed her. I had one rupture last year and spent a week in the hospital with peritonitis. It can be so dangerous. Reporting gay sexual assault of a starting QB at my school. I'm still paranoid that someone is still out to get me for it. You are amazing. High five, mother. This will be buried because I'm late to this, but one time when I was still in college I saw someone standing in the middle of the sidewalk when everyone was headed to class. They kept getting past and they weren't really looking at anything, so it seemed odd. I went back and it turns out they were blind. I asked if they needed directions or help and she told me she was lost. Helped her get to the building she was looking for. TLDR. Helped a blind person find the building they were looking for on campus. I think I'm the only one who starts reading this kind of thing and automatically jumps to then we just clicked and I figured she would need help getting home from there, so I stuck around. She was so happy to hear me when she got out. She did a little, and now we have 3 healthy grandchildren and we lived happily ever after. I recently attempted suicide and came very, very close to achieving that. When people see me they often don't know how to respond. So I take it upon myself by singing Guess Who's Back Again. Someone has to break the silence, right? That is the perfect way to handle that situation. I was about 12 or so. There was an older kid who was a bully and a prick, threatening about, I want to say about 10, but it might have been about 6 younger kids, my age or slightly younger, prepubescent anyway. We were a small enough group. The older kid, who was maybe around 16, was saying how he could take us all on. We were too small, our balls hadn't dropped, he'd smash the first kid who tried anything, etc. Halfway through his mocking rant, I charged him. I took a hefty punch to the face and was thrown over his shoulder, but the other kids were right behind me. I think he thought we'd be too cowardly to attack, or that no one would be first and take a definite punishment. I was in and out of that fight in 10 seconds, but the bully got his butt severely handed to him. Told my friend's boyfriend he was cheating on him. He was such a nice guy and didn't deserve to go through what my sociopathic friend was putting him through. Me and my buddy had a lot of mutual friends I don't talk to anymore because I guess I'm a snitch. The two are back together. Sometimes I wish I never opened my mouth. Don't feel bad. They're freaking idiots. You did the right thing. I want a friend like you. Punching this kid in the face my senior year after he pushed my friend he was dating into a locker pretty freaking hard. So I walked up and punched him directly in the face and snapped his nose. I was 18 and he was 15. I had a teacher back me up saying I was reacting to a potentially dangerous situation. Well, our Frozen was turning into a dumping ground for Elsa only and Elsana posts. I created our Namaste race. I now have half of the fandom praising me as a god, and the other half wanting to kill me. That's fun. You're a god. In grade 8 there was this girl who, though it was totally okay to punch, kick and sack guys because guys aren't allowed to hit girls. After going through a year and a half of this I thought frick it, and Sparta kicked that bee. I kicked her hard enough to knock the wind out of her. Obviously I didn't mean to hit that hard, but a guy can only get kicked in the bit so many times, and I had literally zero repercussions. The one teacher that saw didn't do anything because he knew what she did, and a few guys high-fives me while most chicks hated me. I don't regret my actions and girls like that need to get their crap straight. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.